Why would they listen to me? Overcoming the imposter syndrome as a business coach. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you are here on the podcast. An important episode about why would people listen to me to help them grow their business. Doesn't matter what your background is. Maybe you are here as a Christian professional. Maybe you own a business. Maybe you're from the military. You have leadership experience. Maybe you've been a VP or a COO or some type of middle management experience, and you love business. You love helping people grow. The idea of helping someone grow their business to where they are today, to what it could become. You see things in your community. You're like, man, if they just did this and that. But then you start to really get to the point of thinking about it, and you're like, but why would they listen to me? And you feel like I'm not worthy. I'm not qualified to be listened to. That's the conversation we're going to have today. I'm going to give you some things to consider and to think about to help you through this process if you're dealing with that. And I will tell you quickly. That's one of the reasons why, by the way, that we have developed an entire done-for-you systematic approach for Christian business professionals to get into consulting, into coaching. It's a complete system, A to Z. If you're interested in learning about it, you can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. And there's some information you can get there to understand more about it. You can even book a quick, what we call Explore the System chat to learn more about it. You can do that there as well. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start over. Part of the imposter issue is you feel like, or if you've never done it before, at least at a professional level where you're making the majority of your living from it, we often think we have to create all this stuff. And the reality is we really don't. And if you do it the right way, you can use a pre-done, done-for-you process where you have the system, the structure, the pieces of the puzzle already completed, already done. You just use it a little bit like curriculum, but it's more than that. Tools, resources, software, and so on. You can learn more about that. But bigger than that for today is there's a reality of the imposter syndrome, right? Who am I to do this? Why would they listen to me? What if I'm not as good to them as I may think that I'm as good? Like those of us that are confident, we have confidence. We have the gift of gab. We love communication, conversation, building relationships. But even in doing that, what puts me in a position to where I can actually help someone grow, especially their revenues, their profits, and so on. And so there's a reality of the imposter syndrome, number one. And it shows up in professionals who have already have experience, but they're entering a new chapter. That's one of the, if you look at the word root cause, one of the reasons why we have this imposter syndrome is even though we have years of experience, we're moving into a new chapter sometimes, and it causes us to be fragile in our own skin, right? It's not really a lack of skill as it is about more of a lack of permission. In other words, why do I have permission to be able to talk and to speak into anybody's business, right? And so here we are, we're sitting here with years of learning, leading, mentoring, training, managing. You might have built teams, you manage spreadsheets, all this kind of good stuff. But when it comes to this idea of doing it on your own, one-on-one with helping someone grow, and they're paying you to do so, we all of a sudden, we feel like, man, I don't know. Why would they want to do that? And so there are some reasons that I think that when you work through the reasons, I'm gonna talk about those. And then just quickly, I'm going to give you some perspective to try to walk through if you're in this position thinking this way. Maybe this will help you where you are, okay? Number one is the humility trap, okay? And as Christ followers, as believers, as Christian professionals, we are taught, we are guided, we are encouraged biblically, as Christ did for us. We are taught to be humble. One of the bedrock truths about Christianity is being humble and being kind. But being humble doesn't mean you have to hide, all right? And oftentimes we confuse humbleness with humility. Well, I don't want to say that to them. They may think this. I don't want to approach it that way. They may think that. I don't know if they'll think it this way. I don't want to. And in this, internal kind of tug of war, and in a heart and a desire to be humble, we tend to hide. Hiding means we don't speak up. We don't pick up the phone. We're not as confident. We don't lean in, and that causes friction. And that friction kind of puts a bullet into our enthusiasm in moving forward. That's one of the issues. The second issue is the comparison game. There's already a lot of coaches out there. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on LinkedIn, you're on these different sites, and you're seeing people talk, and they've got platforms, and they've got viewers, they've got followers. I don't have any of that, and we begin to compare where we are right now to where they already are. And a friend of mine, John Acuff, great author and speaker, said one time years ago that you can't start in someone else's middle. I'm going to say it again. You can't start in someone else's middle. In other words, if there's 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road, but you're comparing where you are right now to where they are at the moment, you're thinking about trying to start where they are. And that's what the comparison thing does, is it kills the enthusiasm, because we have a out of balance way of viewing things. Okay. And so your story, your experiences, your lens, that's unique to you. And God can use you where you are with those who you already know or will interact with, regardless of what you think you are compared to someone else. And then, of course, there is what I call the spiritual warfare part, right? The enemy loves to attack identity. And so when we're feeling vulnerable in a moment, like, this isn't going to matter to them. I don't have 15 years of experience. By the way, little side note, this is football. This is being recorded during football season. And if you don't know, there's a number of coaches in the NFL who've never played on the field, in the league, in the NFL, a day in their life. Andy Reeves, the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, 3-time, I think 3 or 4-time Super Bowl champion, never played a snap in the NFL. Played in college, some, but became a great coach. Think about that for a moment. We're not talking about, and there's a lot of OCs and DCs and quarterback coaches or whatever that have never played in the NFL. But here's an individual at the top of their game, championship caliber team, worth billions of dollars, who never played the game. Why? Because coaching the plays does not require you to play the game. Could it help? I mean, maybe, sure. But strategy is separate from the tactic. The tactic is being on the field. The strategy is understanding what to do on the field. As a matter of fact, think about this. A lot of coaches will say things like, I've never owned a business before. Well, let me give you some good news. I mean, this is kind of a weird thing to say when I'm going to use a kind of a negative thing as a good news. But when you look at 90% of all businesses that start, they go away within 5 years. So we're saying that only 10% go through. And that is a universal. You can go Google that. It's everywhere. There's data points from all kinds of different organizations that measure these kinds of things, including the SBA. And so when you look at that, that just simply means that just because you own a business doesn't mean you're successful. Because operationally running the business and strategically growing the business are two different things. And my encouragement to you is, you want to fall in love with and learn the strategy, not just the tactics, because the tactics are actually born out of the strategy. And the reason why so many people fail is they do things tactically without thinking about it strategically. That makes sense. I don't know how I wove that into the spiritual warfare part, but that's just where it came out of. The whole point is that the enemy loves to attack your identity, and your worth. And you want to protect that identity. You are a child of God. You are made in his image, and you have the ability, if you believe that you've been put this idea, this dream, this goal, this experience, you've had it, you want to help encourage others, you can do that. You just have to ignore what the enemy tells you. So, just like Paul in the Bible, he constantly reminded others that his power actually came from weakness so that Christ's strength could shine. That just simply means that we're going to put our trust and our hope in the Lord about moving forward, that it's not all about us. That also means that as we pray through, we learn, we strategize, we get to know other people, we also put it in his hands that that every step is ordered, but I'm not going to know the outcome all the time. Then I know that's tough. I get it. That's a challenge sometimes to just wrap our heads around, is that, I want to know the outcomes, or at least I want to know the direction I'm going. But sometimes we can't always allow God to give God the glory if we always are in control. Hope that makes sense. So here's 4 practical, I think there's 4 steps to break free from this idea of the imposter syndrome. Now, the first is shifting from the need of proof to purpose. Okay? Proof is not that is just a cultural thing that we need proof. We don't. You want to lead, you want to work, you want to position yourself from a place of purpose. When you're leading from a place of purpose, let me just tell you, those that you're working with, they will sense it. And oftentimes that purpose comes with great conversation and asking great questions that give aha moments to those that you're working with. They're not just always looking for the exact answer. Because part of our job is we're not just wanting to give advice. We're wanting to help improve the ability to be a thought leader and help them to think strategically. Okay? And that can be done on a consistent basis. Period. Number 2, so you want to shift from proof to purpose. Number 2, you want to create evidence of value. That's a heart thing. If all you're trying to do is to sell, and that goes back to the proof part, we feel like if we have proof, then I can sell someone on the idea. And in reality is that you want to be able to add value and persuade someone to think differently about growth in their business. So when you put purpose and persuasion together, that's value. Now you're moving somewhere. Okay? Because when you operate from a place of purpose and you're asking the right questions and you're helping to guide, that's one of the things that I love about our system. We have this really cool assessment using our proprietary software. It's a guided process to help business owners to be able to find 100 to 300 grand in about 45 minutes without them spending more money in marketing or advertising. And here's the cool part about it. As you're walking through the assessment, the questions are right there on the screen, already pre-done. It's a guided process, and the questions are designed to get that business owner to think. Here's the cool thing. You don't have to come up with that content. And they're created in a manner to already create the end goal, thought, to move someone to where they are today to see what's possible. The third thing is to speak life over yourself. Affirming yourself in the scripture every single day. And everybody's on a different trajectory on their, just where they are emotionally. And you got people who are like ultra confident. You have people who are low in confidence. So you have to determine for yourself. But regardless, speaking life and prayer over your day that I'm going to speak boldly. I'm going to lean in with enthusiasm. I'm going to see past the what my old self would see in terms of I don't know how, I don't know where, but I'm going to be able to. And I believe that when you do that routinely over and over, and you put yourself in a habitual state to move forward. And every day that you move forward, you learn. The more that you learn, you get better. The more you get better, your confidence builds. The more your confidence builds, your value and your purpose goes up exponentially. Okay? The fourth, surround yourself with believers who believe in you. Like, that could be family, that could be friends, that could be people from your small group, your church. I don't know. It could be other business owners, just depending upon, your current network. And so I would encourage you to join masterminds or getting to, at the local level, both from a true believership, but also networking around other people who are looking to grow. That's one of the things that we do in our system. Every week, we have multiples of masterminds and community type things to just get better at what we do. You'll hear how others are struggling. You'll hear how others are winning. People will pump you up. They'll compliment you. They'll encourage you when you're down. You got to have a community. Last one. This is one of my favorite ones, because until I started doing this, until I really harnessed it, I didn't really understand the power of taking imperfect action. I'm not suggesting to be unprofessional. It just means that when we take that first step, when we've never taken the step before, there's going to be at times, well, if I took the step again, I would do it differently. That's what imperfect action is all about. And your confidence gets built when you do that. Now, I think that when there's a way to professionally poke fun at yourself when you have to, but the more that you take action when you don't understand, you don't know, but you're confident enough, you have enough, right? Again, we don't want to be unprofessional, but we have enough to move forward. That's the part right there. Among everything else, we ask God to help us to just take that step, pick up the phone, have the conversation, go to the meeting, regardless of what it feels like. And the more times you do that, you get better and better and better, and it builds your confidence. You learn, you grow. All of a sudden, 3 days turns into 3 weeks, turns into 3 months, it turns into 3 years, and you'll be shocked at how fast you can learn when you take imperfect action. So, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. I really believe that. I am nobody in terms of, I don't have no big degree. I didn't make $1 billion. God's put it upon my heart to encourage others to coach. I've been doing it for a long time. But I started one day when I didn't have any experience at all. Very young too, by the way, which is even harder. I didn't have the gray hairs that I have today that at least visually show that I've got some experience in life. I was very green, just kind of working through it. And that's what the imperfect action, I surrounded myself with a lot of other people. I got involved with masterminds. I got involved with people who are better than me. And I began to help people. I led with a place of purpose. And one day turned into 10 years, that turned into 20. And here we are. And you can do the same. The crazy thing is, back in the day, I didn't have tools. I didn't have resources. I was just kind of winging it, to be truthful, in a professional way. Just kind of piecemealing things together. Took this from that book, to this from this book, and heard that message, and saw someone say this, and just kind of strung the whole thing together. Well, you don't have to do that now. You can work with someone like us, or wherever you feel God's calling to work, that already has the whole plan laid out for you at a complete A to Z level. And that's going to significantly help the imposter syndrome too, because you don't have to figure out the resources and the tools and the tech. That needs to be solved. You need to spend 80+% of your time leading from a place of purpose, building relationships, adding value, and solving problems. That's what a great strategist and a coach really does. Hope that adds value to you. If you were to take one piece of this today, and only one, as a Christ follower and a Christian professional, it is taking imperfect action. Even if you get scabbed, you get bruised, you'll learn, you get experience, and it just gels together over time. And then that's really what helps you. Yes, you have to have the other pieces, but if you have the other pieces, but you don't take action, then it's just information at that point. Okay? Hope that adds value to today. Until next time, take care.